Welcome to Train Signal. This demonstration video is from my Forefront Threat Management Gateway 2010 training course. One of the basic networking concepts that you need to understand with Forefront Threat Management Gateway is the difference between a routing relationship and a network address translation or NAT relationship. Route relationships provide basic router-like functionality, and they allow you to connect two separate networks to one another via the router. When it comes right down to it, a firewall is just a router on steroids. It's a router with lots of additional functionality behind it. A route relationship is also bidirectional. If a network rule defines a route from an internal network, for example, to the perimeter network, then an implicit route is also created from the perimeter network to the internal network to enable bidirectional communication. When it comes to access rules, IP addresses are not masked or modified in any way. And Forefront Threat Management Gateway forwards the traffic with the source and destination IP addresses intact. Now, what that means is that when you are routing, you don't have to hide the IP address. So if I'm talking to a machine in the perimeter network, and I'm talking from the 10.1.1 network, which is the internal network for global Mantics, the destination machine will see a 10.1.1 address as the source address. This is different than NAT, and we'll talk about NAT soon. When it comes to publishing rules, Threat Management Gateway's application filters are used directly in a route relationship. Let's go over and take a look at where you can find these application filters just so that you know where they are. And here we are, once again, over at the Threat Management Gateway system. And you'll notice that I've selected the System tab in the navigation area. And over here you're going to see three tabs: Servers, Application Filters, and Web Filters. Choosing application filters, you can get a look at all of the application filters that are available with Threat Management Gateway. If you double-click a filter, some of them have options that you can configure the filter. For example, the H323 filter has call control and a networks tab so that you can manage how this filter is going to listen on the network for calls that use this particular technology. But you're going to also see that a number of the filters don't have any configuration options except to enable or disable the filter. If you look at the SMTP command filter, you'll notice that you can disable and enable specific SMTP commands if you want, or you can edit them. Global Mantics doesn't have any need to make any modifications at this point to the application filters, but I wanted you to understand where to find them and some of the options that are available. Now let's talk about network address translation relationships, or NAT relationships. NAT relationships are unidirectional rules. That is, they're set up to be one-way affairs only. You have two different kinds of rules in general that you can create in Threat Management Gateway: an access rule and a publishing rule, and each one handles NAT slightly differently. When you create an access rule, what happens after that is that Threat Management Gateway, when traffic passes through it, replaces the client IP address on the source network with Threat Management Gateway's default IP address on the destination network. So if you're on the internal network and you're browsing out to the internet, you're going to have a situation where destination machine that's being communicated with will actually see the IP address from the Threat Management Gateway system instead of the IP address from the host system, the originating system. On publishing rules, the client and the destination network makes a connection to the Threat Management Gateway IP address on which the publishing rule is listening for requests. This is a situation, for example, where you've published a web server from the perimeter network out to the internet. So that machine that's out on the internet is connecting to the Threat Management Gateway IP address, not necessarily directly to the web server. When TMG forwards traffic to the published server, the IP address, the Threat Management Gateway IP address, is then replaced with the IP address of the internal server that is being published. But the source IP address is never modified because it's always that originating machine from out on the internet.
Thanks for watching. For more information regarding our training, please visit www.trainsignal.com.